After I awoke from knowing that my neck had broke, I remember it was a very cold day. It was a blizzard, and the tow rope which pulled me up the hill was not monitored, and there were no safety features. So I went the full length being hung by my scarf, and I hit the machine booth. I awoke, and I remember looking around briefly, and I'm getting such waves of emotion. I remember looking around briefly, and it was almost as though something caught my attention over to the side I was facing, and there were woods of birch trees and pine trees, and I thought, why aren't I cold? And as I looked over, there was this beautiful, unworldly, undescribable light that came through the forest and the birch trees, and it just had these beautiful rays of gold and white, and I could see a shadow, a figure coming towards me, and it was so comforting. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm not cold, I'm very warm, and here comes this figure. And maybe it's my dad and my family coming, because behind him were two other figures. The ethereal figure had this light, and the light was really from the figure. The light was his light. The light illuminated and let me know it was all about life. It was about energy. It was like joy and happiness and comfort and safety. And I felt rescued. And I knew everything would be all right somehow. And as he approached, I welcomed it immediately, which is very uncommon considering, it's a stranger. So he came towards and kneeled down and showed me hands, and I just felt this warmth, and in the middle of a snowy day. So that warmth, I wish I had more words for it, but the power I learned in that moment, that great love and that warmth and that power, that was the greatest power I've ever felt in my life. More than And it's a positive power. This power was full of love, and I learned that was creation. All of this came through this light. All this information came through and connected to my heart and my mind. I just felt a complete connection and understanding that this being was here to love, create, and heal, and to embrace me and I knew that he knew everything about me. I felt it, and he let me know in that moment that who he was. It was overwhelming. I didn't focus so much on how he looked. I focused on the feeling and the love and the healing and the kindness, and my body was it had to be completely mangled laying there, and he put his arms under me, and I felt embraced, and I felt carried. So I didn't feel like I left my body. I felt just rescued, and that I was going home. And I think the communication best described today, we hear the words telepathic, but this power is beyond our ability to develop. This is like a connection that is cellular, and so you feel completely known. You know where you're going. You know that you're going to be safe, and everything will be all right. And I looked down, and I saw at the bottom of the ski hill, it just broke me out of my peace. I was in such peace. I heard this scream, and it was my mother, and she was at the bottom of the hill. So I realized we were elevated to some degree, or I just had a different view where I could see for miles and miles and miles. It was just endless, and I could see what was happening all the way at the bottom of the hill. While we were moving, I felt just, the same in my body. I felt fine. I felt like I was with someone who loved me unconditionally and knew every detail about me, and I felt like he would let me know any answer or anything I needed to personally know. We arrived, and there was a beautiful, there was like rolling hills, there was trees, and I remember this meadow, and it was only purple, yellow, and white flowers that really struck my eye. They were the most beautiful, just wildflowers of purple, yellow, and white. And that later in my life had significance. And in childbirth, when I had a difficult time, they say, find a place that's your happy place. And I remember I will always go to the purple, yellow, and white meadow. In that meadow, I was shown, because I had asked, can I go back to help my mother? Would that be possible? And he wasn't expecting me. I felt like he was curious why I would want to do that, especially since, I had known that I had faced my death and the terrible pain that I went through. So he was curious why I would want to return. And I just had a feeling that I should, and I just wanted to answer that call. But I respected and knew that he was all-knowing, and that there was this system in place and this universe that was just so enormous and filled with so much. So they discussed it, and there happened to be a group that came towards me, and they almost like glided. I didn't see, I never really saw them like their faces, but they were beings, and they were all in the similar color, like cloaks of some sort. And I began to see that this was very much like I don't want to say government, but an organized place of work and of everything had a purpose, and everyone had a purpose. And they were letting me know that so much information was flowing in, that everything's connected, everything's that a lot that's alive, and that is, there was so much life there. And they let me know that that's what it's about, is life and living and creation. And everything that's positive was connected to this being that, told me his name and carried me. And I was just overwhelmed with this love that filled my heart. From every crevice in my heart felt full. I spent that time waiting to know if I would be able to return. And that group of people or beings, they looked like, I figured they were people, but they were beings as part of a bigger picture that would happen or not. I wasn't sure. And then a moment came where another group came along, and then I met more and more beings. And in the end, I was able to witness so much of what I was supposed to see. And I realized that this was extraordinarily perfect. Everything made sense, and everything had love and purpose. So there was a moment that finally came where there was like a mountain range. It looked like some sort of a formation, and there was this gold light that was awakened, and over that light came a gold, I thought it was a hand, but it was like the size of Mount Everest. I don't know. It was just enormous. Next thing I knew, they were asking if was I sure, because there is pain here and on Earth, and was I sure? And I said yes, and so I was returned and to my body. And I don't know. People asked me if I knew I had a choice, and I just felt honored and respected, and I felt everything had a meaning, and it was just over my head. But truthfully, the biggest impact has been knowing that there is life after death, knowing that there is life, always life, and life is precious, and how precious life is here. And from the experience, I was infused with that light. I was infused with these it was just informational, and I feel like they were like little golden flecks of information that just went in. And I learned that every blade of grass, every sunrise, sunset, anything living that's beautiful, everything living has a purpose. Everything's connected. There's the joy and the abundance of love that's available. All you have to do is ask.